Hi everyone, welcome back to the Power of a Hobby. I'm your host, Dom Fenton, and today I have another guest. Hi Lindsay, how are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you, Dom.
Good, great. Thank you for coming on. Just so people know, we've never met. We
No.
literally had a conversation about 5 minutes ago,
Yep,
just to get a bit of a background. So Lindsay, why don't you introduce yourself, tell people who you are, what you do.
of course. So my name is Lindsay, and I run my business. Lindsay Does. Languages have very much been a part of my life for a long time, since I was about 8 years old. But it's just grown and grown. I don't see it ever being something that's not in my life in any capacity. It's work, it's play, it's all the things. And yeah, I now, in terms of my business, I teach people how to learn languages after years of tutoring and learning them for myself. I realized that was the bit that's often missing. And with that, you're then able to learn any language that you want again and again.
Brilliant, love this. So this is going to be a slightly different podcast in the fact that actually it's another one where it's gone from a hobby into a business. So, first question for you. What does the power of a hobby mean to you?
Yeah. When we met in that little bit before hitting record and you said this, I was like, wow, that's, straight in at the deep end. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think if we think of a life without hobbies, it's essentially just work, eat, sleep, repeat. So for me, the power of a hobby is to break up the monotony of that routine that we inevitably have to do on some level, and also to allow us to grow. I know that sounds really cheesy, but one thing I love, I know we talked a bit about sport as well. I love like trying new to me sports, right? So if there's like a 6 week rollerblade class, I'm there, I'm signing up. If there's like, a Groupon for the most recent one was parkour, a Groupon for parkour. I'm like, right, let's sign up for that. And I love that feeling of being new at something, being a beginner, being able to try something that I've never done, because you just never know where that's going to lead. And so sometimes it might be that I try a new sport or try a new language, and it's a couple of weeks, it's a day, it's a month or so, and that's fine. But equally, it could be something that has this long, lifelong impact. And that's the power of a hobby, is that you don't know what the power of a hobby is going to be until you try it. So there's just so much that we can do in the world, that we can try. And without including time in that work, eat, sleep, repeat for hobby, we don't give ourselves the space to explore everything that the world has to offer. And that's really what the power of a hobby is for me. It's that chance for just really exploring, learning more about the world and about ourselves as well.
I love that answer. And I think as well, it is a chance to grow because actually what we tend to find is when we find the right hobby, it becomes part of who we are and it starts defining who we are.
Yeah.
And obviously for, you know, many people know my story in terms of my rugby and everything else. And actually, this is where I want to get into with yourself around again, because it's similar. The fact is, it's something that started young and actually it's just grown and grown. And, you know, yours is not a typical hobby, your one, it's not a typical one. But actually, I'm really keen now just to hear the story and hear how it happened and look at everything. Because again, you never know where it takes you.
Mm.
I was doing some work in our secondary school yesterday. And it wasn't until it was quite good. You interview them. It's the first time they interview. It's like a mock interview. And I was talking to a couple of them and they asked what my background or what my story was a little bit. And I was like, oh, okay. We're the ones interviewing them, but actually, what do you
Yeah.
do? It's like, okay. So, and it wasn't until you start talking that you realize actually from finding the right hobby where it can take you. So obviously, with my rugby I'd been coaching for many years and I was able to go to America with it. I was able to go to Canada with it. I was able to go to South Africa with it. And all of a sudden you're realizing actually it does take you places. And sometimes for me, I always say sometimes being in the right place at the right time. I also think it's about actually not closing off to the idea of something,
Yeah.
because I think too many times we can say no to something that actually almost falls in our lap. We go no because we're scared or we're not sure. Well, no, actually say yes. We'll work out how to do it.
Mm.
And I think and I think all of that, whether it's a hobby, whether it's work, whatever it is, I think sometimes we just need to have that courage to, you know what, rather than think change is really bad or we're nervous. Yeah, be nervous. That's fine. Don't let it control you,
Mm.
and don't let it control your decision. So I'm really excited to get into this. So we've touched on it briefly, just in terms of what it is. So Lindsay, why don't you tell everyone what your hobby is?
My hobby is learning languages.
Love it.
And I'm so intrigued as well by when you say that it's not a typical hobby. And as you're saying, what we think of as a
Yeah.
typical hobby,
The-
something just clicked for me. It's the idea of something that we do after school, which isn't normally languages, right? It's
Yeah.
sport, it's music, it's drama, it's the stuff that might be part of the school day, but is also the after school club.
Yeah.
And languages don't often fall into that. Yeah.
And
Kind of
and
get
that's
stuck, right? In this is a
it
school
does. And
subject.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes and I think, and obviously working with education, working with schools,
Mm.
I do think there's that need to change that, because, we're looking at a moment projects in China. So we're sending some coaches to China. We're sending, we've done work abroad, and actually they're not, I want to see where the languages comes in. I want to see be able to do, actually, is there an after school where it is an after school club of doing languages? Because actually there are going to be there are going to be children, there are going to be young people who want to learn languages.
Mm.
And actually, let's make that possible. Let's make it possible
Yeah.
for them to engage in it and actually realize that they can do it as something extra, such as the other clubs and the other activities. But I'm just intrigued now. This is what I love about these shows. Is the fact is I don't always know where it's going to take us.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. So talk to me about where you first started learning languages and how this journey started.
Yeah. So it's actually quite funny because I did start with extracurricular. So, but it was in school times. It was in
Mm.
primary school. And at the time, languages weren't compulsory. I believe now they're compulsory in
Mm.
primary, but at the time they weren't. And so to learn French was like this extra club, and you got taken out of the maths or the English for 20 minutes, half an hour to go to your French. And at the end of each term, you got croissants and orange juice. And that was enough. When my mum would say, "Oh, do you want to renew French club?" I'd say, "Yes." That's the thing with the
As
croissants.
long as they're croissants are still
I will
there,
go. I'm in. That was it. That was enough. But then what happened is it became a bit of a not a hobby at all then, because when I then went to secondary school, and because it wasn't in primary at all, you'd start at age 11 in year 7 with bonjour, cat, blue, red, green, and they're teaching you like you're 4 years old and no one cares. And everyone just says, "Oh, everyone speaks English anyway." And everyone's just, swinging back on their chairs. It's that subject that had a really like unnecessary, I don't need this reputation. And so that combined with the fact that I'd learned everything that I was being taught meant that it was really boring.
Mm.
So I didn't care. I didn't care about French. I didn't care about languages. It had gone from, whoa, croissants to,
Yeah. Here we go again.
yeah. But kind of a year or two into secondary school for me, Shakira released her album Laundry Service, which had a few Spanish songs on it. And I was like, oh, well, I've learned one language. I can just do another. Same thing, surely. So I had the little, the little gem dictionary, like the little tiny ones that would fit in a school bag. I asked for a Spanish one of those for my birthday. And I was sitting translating the lyrics booklet from the CD, trying to go every word, which obviously doesn't work. But then it became something I was interested in sort of outside of school, more as a hobby, something I would do in my own time.
Yeah.
But then that opened up at school for GCSE. The school said you can do Spanish. But if you want to do Spanish, you have to do French to prove that you can do
Yeah.
languages. I was
Yeah.
like, well, if it means I get to do Spanish, I'll stick with it. It's fine. So I did both of them. And I never thought anything of this. I just thought that's the rule of the school. It doesn't, I'm just going to be able to speak French then and that will be it. But I really care about the Spanish. But then as I look back now, I realize what that set me up for. And that set me up for this realization that a lot of people fear, again, like coming back to what you say about fear, that you can't learn more than one language at once. And I'm like, you can. I've done it since 2003. Like, it's possible. And so that gave me accidentally this confidence to then take this into something that has now become my whole life. And going on from school and A levels to doing my degree part-time distance learning with Open University was then you're very much in charge. You get sent the books, you have a few live sessions in the year, but you need to make sure you do the work. So I'm then having to become my own teacher all of a sudden, from going from GCSE to A level, someone's telling you what to do. Now I'm in charge. And that again was this other crucial step that made me think, oh, I don't need to wait for, an evening class to be available in the language I want, or a teacher to have a poster up in the local coffee shop. I can do this on my own anytime. And I was tutoring as well at the time. I was tutoring languages, English, French, and Spanish. And in between sessions, I'd pop into this library. I had this sort of these houses that were like, one was sort of here and one was there, and in between was a library where I needed to spend some time. And I spotted this book on the shelf that was a Dutch, teach yourself Dutch book. And I thought, well, I've got German on the go now with the Open University. Why can't I do this for myself? So that was the first time where I was fully in charge then. And it was all, at the same time as everything else, alongside the other languages that I was already doing now with the Open University. And I just thought, why not? I can do this. And that, like I say, it's snowballed, it's spiraled, it's just become an endless part of my life and something that I'm very grateful for, to be honest. I just can't imagine, it to me is as normal as brushing your teeth, to spend some time in the mornings on a language app or to pick up a book, like a sort of, language course book when I'm just got a few minutes in the evening. Like that's it. That's my life.
That's it. And I think I think sometimes what we have to do is be grateful. I talk about this a lot, whether I'm talking with young people or I'm talking to other companies or teachers or whoever I'm working with at the time. But sometimes we just have to be grateful for something that we may never have thought about. Because I can imagine now, so you as a 13, 14-year-old, suddenly looking at then Spanish as well. Okay, doing both. Who would have thought at that point where it would have taken you? We're obviously having a quick chat off air. How many languages would you say now that you have some understanding of?
Oh, some understanding. I like that there's some nuance to this because normally it's like, how many languages do you speak? I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's so hard to answer. But some understanding of it's like, that's a lot. I would say that I've studied like 15 to some level of conversational competence or to fluency in the past. But that's not to say that all of those 15 I'm like pure with today, But then there's even more than that if I'm going somewhere on holiday, I've got a few words. I'm able to read some of the signs. I've got like, apps where there's like a mass of languages and I've unlocked all the languages because I just want to have that exposure, I am that person that watching Eurovision, if someone's singing in their own language, their national language, I'm like instant 10 points lesson. I love that sort of exposure. But yeah, generally I tend to say it's like 15 in terms of the ones that I've been happy with my level at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously it opens up so much for you. Being able to have that level
Mm.
with them. Have you, in terms of obviously then using the language, are you, I'm assuming you're a keen traveller as
Yeah.
well, or want to, and how many of those potentially 15 would you say you've been able to go and use around the world?
I think all of them.
Getting you thinking now, aren't
Yeah,
I?
I think all of them actually. Yeah. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Europe, on sort
Yeah,
of shorter trips and stuff, and sort of interrail when I was like 18.
yeah,
But also when I was the same age after A levels, before starting with Open University. So at this point, I only know French and Spanish. And I've studied Spanish for 4 years. And I knew that I'm like, university isn't really what I want to do.
yeah,
Everyone around me is applying. So I guess I applied, but I need to defer for a year. I don't really
yeah,
want to go, right?
yeah,
So I went to Costa Rica instead for 3 months, doing one of those English teaching things that, those sorts of programs,
yeah,
gap year things. And it was amazing. I'd done Spanish for 4 years in school, but I could barely speak. I'd memorized my oral exam for the end of the
yeah,
year. Dub, 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 dub.
yeah.
Repeat it parrot fashion. That's that. I arrive in Costa Rica and I'm like, hola,
And I, hi.
what next? People are speaking to me and I'm thinking, I need to slowly process. And I remember I was staying with a family and there was a girl from the UK and a girl from Australia who were about 25, so that bit older than me, staying with the grandparents. So we spent a bit of time together. And the Australian in particular was so good at Spanish, so comfortable and confident and fluid. And she was such an inspiration that I thought, wow, I've got 3 months here. That's what I want at the end of this time,
Mm,
you know? So that was a really pivotal in terms of travel moment, because I also then realized that the world is open. If I can speak a language somewhere, that country just blew wide open. It's no longer just, okay, here I am at the Eiffel Tower because the book says this bit is safe. And now I'm at the Louvre because the book says this bit's no,
yeah,
I can go anywhere,
yeah,
And so that was huge. I've I've sort of since spent a lot of time in Asia and sort of Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Latin America too. Obviously, Spanish very
yeah,
helpful there.
yeah.
But I remember like trying to fly from Latin America to Asia, going from Paraguay to Singapore, that natural direct
Mm.
route of
Yeah,
that we
yeah, yeah.
that we
So
all
we all
take.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And the first leg was Paraguay to Brazil, and then the Brazil to Portugal leg got cancelled. So I'm
right,
stuck in Brazil and thinking, right, this is annoying. Got shipped off to this hotel. And then you're having to like queue up and be on the phone with the Brazilians trying to get a new flight somewhere.
yeah,
So then I've had 9 months in Latin America in Spanish brain. And in an instant, I'm having to go, okay, Portuguese. Right, here we go. So there's these moments that you don't expect. There's things like when I was in Morocco and there's, the kind of the very, I always say the word wrong. I always call them toots. So that means the
right,
correct word is touts. There we go.
yeah, yeah.
That's how I remember. So the touts, as soon as you get off the bus, they're like, hello,
They're
hello,
there,
where's your
and yeah,
hotel? Yeah.
yeah,
And I'd seen on the bus, there was this Chinese guy and I'd noticed because he's writing on his phone with his finger. This was 2013. This
yeah,
was the first time I'd ever seen this. I was blown away. Wow. And as we got off the bus, he's not traveling on his own. These touts like pounced on him because they could see he's different. He's solo.
yeah,
We'll get him to the hotel. We'll get our commission. So I was like, no, that's not right. So I sort of went over and I said, oh no, to the touts, I'm speaking in French. Then like, oh no, he's with us. I was like, come on, it's fine. Then I'm speaking in Chinese to the guy. I speak little Chinese. Come, And so these things that you wouldn't expect to speak Mandarin in Morocco, but it happens and it
yeah,
opens up these experiences and for something that otherwise would have been a very straightforward trip. So there's so much, and it's a really wonderful tool if you love travel. Language to me is, side by side.
We literally, I think we could do this for hours. I think we
Yes.
could literally do and stories and everything. I love it.
Part two, part three,
Yeah.
part four. Let's go.
You're gonna be coming back. Don't worry about that. So, in terms of obviously, what's your next venture? Where you we I know we touched on this a little bit
Mm.
briefly. Where's the next place you're going?
Actually, it's a very interesting day to ask this. So the next place I'm going, I'll be going to Lithuania. Booked the flight today. Today.
Good timing, isn't it? Good
It's
timing.
happening. It's
Yeah.
official.
Here we go. It has to
Um,
happen now.
Yeah, going to Lithuania for summer, using up the Schengen, staying as long as is possible, and then Georgia, and then depending on where flights go, it's very open, but probably from Georgia, kind of via Middle East to hopefully the Maldives, not for like, you know, luxury resort, but for like, I
Yeah.
want to see.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by these countries where they're known for one thing, like Maldives, luxury resort. People live
Yeah.
there. I want to
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
so hopefully there, and then India, then back onto Southeast Asia and China, Japan, Korea, and then through Central Asia to sort of meander home that way. So
So
yeah,
how long's that gonna be? How long are you looking at?
at least a year. We'll
Okay.
see. Yeah. Yeah.
So we could be doing the next one of this. You could be somewhere else.
Be
The
somewhere
likelihood,
else.
the
New
likelihood you
language
probably will be.
happening.
You will.
Yeah.
Be. It will just be. I know. And what I've started to do. I was talking just before Christmas. I was talking to some others and going. Actually, what I want to do is try some of the hobbies. I talk to people
Mm.
about hobbies, but I actually go and try them and do these sort of things. So
Yeah.
you know what? I might have to put this one on that list as well because I
Definitely do.
just
Try
you
it.
know,
Then I'm more than happy to come back on and you can tell me how
yeah.
it all went. And
I'll be like,
I
no,
could
look,
tell
I'm
you.
still talking English.
Yeah.
That'll be the thing. I'll be like, it's sort of happened, but it will be
Yeah.
fine. So, last couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
So, in terms of where you're at now, and obviously now you've sort of turned it into a business about tea. So, where do you want that to go, or how is that?
Mm.
Sort of, is there a direction you want to take? Because obviously, wherever you are in the world,
Yeah.
within reason, you can carry on teaching people. You can
Yeah.
carry on doing that, can't you? So is there a particular direction you want to take there, or?
For now, I just really want to grow the business because it's really important to me that message gets out there. So the more people that I can be speaking with and working with that are learning not a language explicitly, not me saying, have more words to remember,
Yeah.
have some grammar rules to remember. That stuff will happen on its own timeline. If you know how you learn languages, it's not like, okay, this is one system or method here, have this very prescriptive way of doing things that works for me. Ka-ching.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's very much like we work together so that you can get this knowledge to see the full picture and figure out where you fit into that. So you're actually at the center. That's just a hugely like new perspective of language learning that's, like we said, it's often something that gets stuck in that school days mentality that is very dung, 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 rote learning. And it really doesn't have to be. It's something that can feed into everything. If you're trying out a new hobby that's a sport, that's something that you can read about, watch a YouTube video about, like listen to a podcast about in the language, So it can really blend into every area of your life. It's quite unique in that sense. And so just really expanding that message that gets out there as much as possible. That's what's really important to me right now.
No, love that. So, final question for you for today, because I am definitely having you back on. And I want to see, and I want you to be outside somewhere around the world.
I'll be like, hello.
Oh, there we are. Here I am today. Look at me. Here we go.
Maybe I can do the beach one day in the Maldives, and then there we go.
And then go and live with
for the
people.
location.
Yes, go over to the location. And we'll do that.
Yeah.
Have someone just holding the internet there. Have the wire to act on the internet there. You'll be fine. A little bit for me. Move a little bit. You'll be fine. The last question. So if someone came to you and said they'd like a hobby, but don't know where to start, what would you say to them?
I would say write down 6 things that you're interested in. It could be 6 languages. If you know, I want to learn a language, it could be 6 languages. Or if it's just a hobby, it could be just 6 things that you're interested in, that you have some level of curiosity about, and then just roll a dice and do it. That's it.
I love that. I just think that was great. And I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it.
I might try it now as well.
And this is all that happens. I talk to people on here, they come up with these wicked ideas, and I have to go and do them. And that's what happens.
That's stressful work for you.
I know. Someone's got to do it, though.
Yes.
Someone's got to do it. Lindsay, thank you so much. I can't believe how quickly it's gone, because actually, you are definitely coming back. So I have no worries about that, and I will be in touch. Where can people find you? LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Where can people get in touch with? They want to get in touch.
The best place is my website. I'm like semi-active on social media. So website is the best place. It's lindsaydoeslanguages.com, and it's Lindsay, Lindsay.
Yeah.
The most awkward spelling.
There's always one. There's always one. Who knows? Brilliant. Lindsay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
As I said, I will be back in touch. Thank you, everyone else, for tuning in or listening or watching on YouTube. I'm your host, Don Benton, and I'll see you again for the Powerball Hobby. Take care now.